our next speaker comes to us from the United States of America. And apart from being a skilled improvisational comedian, he is a partner of a marketing and community development team for Monotype and recently brought to life Helvetica the NFT. And how that worked, he will tell us right now. Here's Bill Connolly.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much. Not here to do improv comedy for you today, but I forgot that was part of my introduction. I'm here to talk to you about Helvetica. And so if you're a designer, you may know about typefaces, but the average person really doesn't. And I work for Monotype. Monotype is a designer and curator of thousands of typefaces that designers and brand owners use every day to build experiences. And Helvetica being probably one of the most famous of those typefaces. So I'm here to tell you about the project that we did this summer. Now, if you are a designer, you know, again, the role that type plays in driving commerce and culture. But one of the things that we like to do is really celebrate that. And as the world has become more digital, in our library, we have really kind of famous, renowned typefaces like Helvetica and Avenir and Gotham. And over the past several years, we've started to go back to the library and take these more legacy typefaces and redesign them so that they are for a digital future. So in 2019, we did that with Helvetica, turning it into what's called Helvetica Now, using optical sizing and other redesigns of the letter forms to make them work in new emerging environments. In 2021, we took that a step further. In this video that's playing behind me now, you see Helvetica Now Variable. So variable typeface format is a really revolutionary engineering feat that has come into the typography world that really allows millions of expressions of the typeface to exist within a single font file. Really incredibly important for the metaverse in the future of mixed reality. And just fun to look at and fun to play with as well. As I said, I'm not a type designer. I'm also not a technologist. So what is my role? Well, at Monotype, I lead creative community and partnership marketing. And I'm deeply passionate about the role that creativity plays in driving our culture. In 2019, I wrote a book called Mindspace about the future of creative thinking and creative living. And as part of that, I interviewed this person, James DeJulio, who's the founder and CEO of Tongle, which is a distributed creative collective. And he told me this, remember, it was 2019. Non-traditional creators are entering the traditional model. But in the long term, non-traditional creators will break the system and make their own models. As we think about what happened over the next couple of years, that certainly appears to be the case. That's sort of what brought us all here today, right? When I started to hear about decentralization, again, I'm not a technology person, so I started to think about decentralization of community. Now, at Monotype, we have our own community. We have people who come to us and learn how to type, how to design type, how to use type. But we've increasingly started to partner with other communities, curated communities, like The Future in the top right there, led by Chris Do, or increasingly Known Unknown, which is another creative collective led by James Somerville. I met James in 2020 in the heat of the pandemic on LinkedIn, where I meet all of my friends. And James and I wanted to work together. Now, James, he formerly started an agency called Attic, which he then sold to Dentsu. And for many years, he was the VP of Global Design at Coca-Cola before starting Known Unknown. So we found quick ways to work with him. He was the first guest on Monotype's podcast, Creative Characters. He was the first virtual keynote that we brought into our event series when we had to go virtual like everyone across the world did in 2020. And this picture on the right side is the first time I ever met James in person, which was in April in 2020 at an NFT conference in Miami. And as this new NFT metaverse space came together, we thought, well, we talk a lot about the science. We talk a lot about the science about typography and the science of building these sort of mixed reality experiences. But ultimately, we need to celebrate the art as well. And so he came to us with this idea. Could we take Helvetica, the world's most iconic font? Now, if you're a designer, you know that some people love Helvetica and some people hate Helvetica, but it is iconic, however you look at it. Could we give it to premier designers around the world and let them build things with it? And just celebrate the artistic expression, the variability that comes with this typeface and others. And so we announced this idea to our marketplace. We said, hey, we're going to do this really cool creative experience with people, with premier designers whom you know and love. And this was the feedback. These were personal emails that I got sent to me when we announced this project. Some from people I know. It was really mean to send to me. But this was pretty much across the board what we heard. And there were 3 flavors of the feedback we got. One was, this is a scam. 2 was, this is bad for the environment. And 3 was, this is a cash grab, right? And behind the scenes, everything we were doing was intentional around making sure those were not the case. We partnered with Avalanche, a blockchain that was proof of stake. We met with their leadership team and we said, this is important to us that this is environmentally conscious. It's important to us that you have a plan that you're building for long-term viability. This isn't just a rug pull, you know, as the lingo was saying at the time. We partnered with people who had reputational value. These were people who weren't just, you know, avatars that nobody knew who they were and were trying to make a quick dollar. We designed and developed the licensing agreement with the creators so they would make the lion's share of the money, and they would own the commercial rights to the derivative artwork that was created, so they could do something else with it. From our perspective, we saw it as a way to build community and a way to involve the community going forward. So we pivoted and we said, let's remove the mechanism and let's just focus on the art. Let's build the group of people who are going to do this. And the group was incredible. We got people like Lance Wyman, who helped design the Mexico City Summer Olympics logo in 1968, and Margaret Calvert, who designed much of the street signage in the UK. Paula Scher, the famed partner from Pentagram, who said, and I quote, "I hate NFTs and I hate Helvetica, so that's why I think I should do this." And Vicky Wong and others, Wayne Lawrence, a photographer who had covered photographed the cover of Time magazine last August. Vicky, who's a shoe designer who made one of the best projects that I saw. We built an identity for the project itself, and we went and learned at NFT Los Angeles and NFT Miami, learned about this space because it was a new audience for us. It wasn't type designers, it wasn't even designers. It was us trying to up-level and push type into the creative consciousness, which, you know, that old saying, you can't market to everybody. I want to market to everybody. I want everyone to know that when they walk down the street, that typography plays a role in how they experience the world. And this was a way for us to do that. And then the art started to come in. And the art was awesome. So many different varied stories and expressions using the same typeface. Ryan McDonough, who creates on a canvas, you know, it wasn't just digital. They were using more tactile art forms to create and then digitizing it. Vicky Wong, she painstakingly cut out the letter forms of Helvetica and overlaid them on a shoe, which you'll see in a video in a second. Created just really, really interesting stuff. 2D Pete, who played with more of the expressive nature of a variable font format and created these really profound animations. Kunal Guar, who takes old packaging and, again, wrote some of the letter forms out, kind of reimagining kind of old abandoned packaging in unique ways. Ben Jones, who did one of my favorite projects as well, playing with ink, and you'll see in the video that's playing there, you'll see how it kind of comes together and what it turns into from a digital perspective, right? Just really fun expressions. Charles, my colleague, who actually led the design on Helvetica now in 2019, did what he called the great themes. So he had 13 of these, and each one had a story that he wrote out. You think about this in terms of more traditional tactile art, these were really just interesting, and you could be one of the owners of this that's tied to him and his brand. Lance, who I mentioned before, I love this visual aesthetic. We've played with that. Margaret, who I think played with some of the cheekiness of how Helvetica is everywhere, which makes designers upset sometimes. Helvetica ad Fidium. Also played with her history as a street sign designer, which was really fun. This was the marketplace. And again, just for a moment on this, it wasn't that we just launched this and tried to make money. We made the fiat value $100 US for somebody who wanted to participate in this ecosystem. We partnered with Stripe to enable people to purchase in a liquidity pool with a credit card and actually build a wallet if they didn't already have one in that moment. And again, we partnered with Avalanche to make sure that the security of the system was such that it was trustworthy for the people that were transacting on the market. To launch the project, we went to New York for NFT NYC. Some of you may have been there. I've talked to a couple of people who were. For two reasons. One, it was a warm community. People wanted to talk about NFTs and Metaverse there. But also, Helvetica is the typeface that the New York City subway system is set in. So there was that tie again into the identity of the city. And we went and plastered these all over. We did a Times Square takeover, and playing with that note that Paula sent us, I hate NFTs, we put that in Times Square. Now, a quick aside, I've been at Monotype for 7 years. Every time we launch any project, I say, we should do a Times Square takeover. And they just say no every time. So this was like my manifesting for 7 years, and finally we did it. And I want to show you a quick video that kind of just shows more about the event itself. When we launched it, again, by switching the focus away from the mechanism of NFTs and in towards artwork and towards the storytelling component, we got good press. People wanted to showcase the art and tell the story about an 86-year-old type designer building her first NFT project because she didn't know what it was about. In fact, when we worked with Margaret, she said, I don't want, the taxes might be too confusing. I don't even want to make the money on it. I just want to do the thing, right? But it was really refreshing to work with people who didn't understand the technology, but knew that it was something they could play with and learn from. So what's next? So again, launching an NFT in July of this year, probably not the greatest time in history to launch an NFT based on kind of how things have gone, but we always had this in the long view. We always knew that this was something we wanted to do to build a community and to learn. We learned about blockchain. We learned about accepting crypto in transactions. We learned about how to engage a community going forward. And James and Known Unknown have a community of over 10,000 designers. And since the launch, we've tried to extend new experiences in very fun ways. On the bottom left there, you see that all fire, no burn. That was a generative kind of AI piece that my colleague Charles wrote or made to promote a digital event we did for NFT holders to learn from their mentors, from people like Lance and Charles and Paula and Margaret that had nothing to do with the NFT process, but more about access to them, right? That centerpiece, that's a derivative artwork we've made as a proof of attendance. Free NFT that we've given to people who have participated in our events. Last week, James and myself did a session at Miro's user conference, Miro not too far away here in Amsterdam, about the process of working collaboratively and digitally on something like this. And as part of that, we extended the NFT artwork into physical swag. So those two you see there in collaboration with the artists themselves, with Jasmine and Charles, two of our artists. Those are the first pieces of swag that have come out of, which is my new, now that the Times Square thing has happened, my new thing I'm going to manifest is extending the artwork into swag. And so these have been very fun. And I'll show you some of the renderings. These are things that don't exist yet, but just sort of mock-ups of stuff that we think we could do. And some are a little bit more maybe realistic than others, but they're all fun to play with. Absolute, I got to call them up to see if they'll be down for this. I don't know if I can make these cars, but I think these would be really fun too. And I want to spend the last bit on sort of what we've learned, takeaways for the future. Because like I said, we did this as a learning project, and we learned a lot. I didn't mean, I've said to a few of you, I didn't mean to become the NFT guy at Monotype. I really didn't even care about NFTs. I didn't care about blockchain. I care about community, and I care about building things, and the energy that I see from people like that are in this room and the other speakers that have been here. When I talk to people who are building in this space who don't understand it, the most common thing people say to me is, I don't know how I got into this, but they kind of found their way into it, and now they're exploring, has been really, really wonderful. I deeply believe that technology will not solve our problems. We as people, as creators, will solve our own problems. And the more that we focus on technology as the solution, I think that's what has started to alienate people, or has continued to alienate people. There are problems with the metaverse. There's problems with interoperability. There's problems with accessibility. There's problems with design. But if you don't believe that it's the future, you can't be part of fixing those problems. And that's where I think the energy that comes from these types of conversations needs to be focused on what can we do to make it better, to make it so that it works, and to make it so that some of these more far-reaching use cases can be developed. The conversation that is really centered most recently is on AI, right? Artificial intelligence. And in a similar kind of vein, people are saying this is bad for design, this is bad for art. But again, if it's a tool, it's just a tool. How do you use that tool to build better experiences and to make the job, the life of a designer better, more fruitful? That's where I think we can see a lot of success here. Again, taking a long-term road, being transparent about what you're building, and being willing to adapt to new environments and new challenges as they come together. Part of the issue with, I think, the run that we've seen the last couple of years is that the long-term view was lost, right, in favor of everything was speculative and all over in your face. And what we're dealing with now is that we have some time to build for the real future, right, and to look at what's this going to look like in 5 to 10 years from now. That's what really excites me. And finally, partnerships are the path to unexpected value. I love partnerships. I love that we could partner with brands to bring some of this to life, that we could partner with individual creators and bring audiences to them to invest directly in those creators. I love that I'm here in Germany talking about NFTs. Makes no sense to me. If you told me this, 10 months ago, that I'd be here learning from all of you. Partnerships are the path to building unexpected value, especially in our new world. We are in a creative renaissance, right? What we do with it is left to be seen. But the way that we can partner and flex muscles that may or may not exist yet is really what is most exciting about this space. And ultimately, creatives will continue to break the model. To bring it back to what James DeJulio said to me in 2019. Creatives are not going to follow the model as it exists today. They're going to break it. They're going to create new models. And we as a society should let them, because creatives lead us into the future. They always have. And that future is bright. Future of the metaverse is going to require us, partnerships, creativity, and hopefully for my colleagues at Monotype, lots of fonts. Thank you very much.
So I just have one question. So we just heard about Helvetica the NFT.
Yes.
What about Comic Sans the NFT?
Something I learned about Comic Sans recently is that it's one of the most accessible in terms of well, at least in the U.S., the ADA compliance, the Disability Act, in terms of that it's the most one of the most accessible typefaces for legibility.
For funniness also.
Yes. So yes. Well, I don't think we own Comic Sans, so we'd have to license that. That could be the tricky part. But you heard it here first. Comic Sans the NFT in 2023.
Coming up here next year.
Yes. We can lock that in right now?
Yes, I like it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.